I'm Lindsay and this is Marengo. Welcome back to our channel, or if you're new, we talk mostly about Liberty horse training, but we talk about a lot of aspects of horsemanship. And I've been asked to talk about how I use my whips in Liberty and also why I use two whips. This is kind of a deep subject, so we're going to go for an overview today, and then you guys can let me know what questions you still have and we can go deeper into certain aspects of using whips in your training. So something I want to get out of the way first is what whips are not used for. And whips are not used for abuse and they're not used for punishment. People get like really triggered, if you want to use a buzzword, about these days, but this is not a tool of abuse any more than, say, that pitchfork over there is for abuse. Yes, you could hit somebody with either one of those objects, but that doesn't mean that because I'm holding a whip, I'm abusive. Like, you can see that this horse is completely fine with this. He's gonna wake up a little bit because he thinks I may ask him for something, because that's what he's used to, but it's not something to instill fear. It's not something to instill punishment. It's just a tool, and it's an aid, like your hands or your legs. And there are people who use their other aids, like their hands and their feet, their spurs, their artificial or natural aids can be used correctly, or they can be used in a not so nice way. And we always try to be as kind and as fair to the horse as possible in our training. So just getting that out of the way, now we'll talk about what whips are used for. And in Liberty training specifically, in your groundwork, I would say you need to use the whips as an extension of your body, not as something separate from your body. And that means that a finished Liberty horse should be moving in relation to your body. So when I am using my whips, I'm not thinking about using my whips a lot. I'm thinking about how my body is moving, and I'm using these whips as extensions of my arms, which are extensions of my shoulders and my torso and so forth. So I had to cut that because I think I was a little off camera there, but I moved back so you guys can hopefully see and still hear what we're doing. And when I say I use my whips as an extension of my body, I'm going to think about what my body is doing. I'm going to walk forward and I'm just going to turn my horse a couple times so you can hopefully see. And I'm just thinking about my shoulders moving, and my whips are just going to follow. Okay, so that's going to look something like this. I'm moving my shoulders. And then I'm going to open my shoulders and bring him around. And my whip is just following. Good. Come back up here. We'll talk about that. Good. Okay, so why do I use two whips? Well, there's a few reasons and there's a few ways that you can think about this. The most simple reason I like to give is I use one for direction, and that's going to be your front whip, and I use one for energy, and that's going to be your back whip. So back whip energy, front whip direction. When I'm using two whips, think of your front whip as your direction. So I'm going to tell them where to go, my shoulders, and my whip as an extension of that. And then my back whip is going to tell them how fast to go. That's my energy. Direction, energy. Oh boy. Another way to think about it is you can use two whips to control the forehand of your horse, your shoulders, and your hindquarters, okay? So say I wanted to move this horse's body sideways. 2 whips might be helpful because I can control the hindquarters and the shoulders independently depending on what I need to cue in the moment. Walk good. So hindquarters and shoulders. I can be very specific. So now I want, say, more hindquarters. Now I want more shoulders. Good boy. Don't need to be bitey. I know you're bored. You're bored. Stop. Good boy. Okay, so another reason I use 2 whips is because one is long and one is short. My short whip, I just use a dressage whip. This is actually available in my store. It's a pretty one that I like. It's rose gold. It's got a nice play to it, and it's got a short lash, just like a regular dressage whip. And my longer whip, I'll have to see where I got this. I think it might have been Amazon. If I can find it, I'll put a link in the description below. But this is a carriage whip. You can find them most places. So my short whip is precise. So if I want to say come in close and say move this foot, good, then that's close. So this is I can do this with this long whip, but it's just a little clumsier. I have to move a little further away, and if I am further away, maybe I want that, but not always. And there's reasons why you want a longer whip. Say I'm gonna stand far away and I still want my horse to come over. Good. Hopefully that was still on camera. Good boy. And also, how we talked about this is precise. This is not, but this is really good for energy. Good boy. Yeah, that perks him up a little bit. Good. So that's a few reasons why I use 2 whips. 2 whips is not always going to be necessary. I know a lot of people that train with only 1, and I know some people train with none. The reason I use 2 in my training is because I believe in this maximum clarity while a horse is learning something. So I want to have as many tools as I can to make everything as precise as I can, so the horse doesn't spend any time or minimal time being confused. Horses don't like to be confused. Confusion leads to frustration. So I like to be as clear as possible, and the 2 whips really allows me to do that. And I know that that is intimidating for some people because it's just a lot to manage. Especially, we've talked about starting your horse on a lead rope, so you'll have a lead rope and 2 whips, and I know that's a lot in your hands. But just like anything, you can practice this and you'll get better at it, and it's not going to be difficult for long. And if that's just really intimidating for you, you can practice this without your horse. I recommend getting to know your whips. Like, practice how you hold it. If you hold it hard, you're probably gonna use it pretty hard. I hold it light so I can play. And you can take this on your arm and just play with how much touch you can do and how much pressure is needed before it starts to feel a sting. I know there's different studies and opinions on how horses feel touch and feel pain compared to humans, and I know it's not an exact correlation, but it'll still give you an idea of, how hard is too hard. Yeah, that's too hard, huh? But that was on me, not you. And same with your other one. Just play with what it takes and play with different ways to hold. Loose, tight. You'll probably go back and forth just depending on the moment and what you need. But yeah, I absolutely recommend getting to know your whips and, practice switching your hands around. Just practice being really skillful and agile with this, and it'll be more natural. And don't expect perfection in the beginning. Good boy. It's gonna take practice just like any skill. Just like the first time you sat in the saddle, it wasn't natural to keep your weight in both stirrups. Just like anything, it's just gonna take some practice and getting used to it. I know there's a tractor, it's fine. Good boy. Good boy. Something else is because I'm using these whips as an extension of my body, it's possible to take them away at some point. In fact, that's something that I practice just to test out how good a skill is. So one day I might say drop my front whip and see if he still follows me, or drop my back whip and see if I can still get the energy. And another thing is, you don't always have to hold them in separate hands. If I'm doing a particular trick where this is too cumbersome and I really just need the long one, you can just go like this, and now it's one whip, and you even have a little extra energy because you've got 2 lashes, and that's totally fine. But eventually you can do things with 1 whip or with no whips. I just like to start with 2 because, again, that clarity is really important in your training. It's gonna make the process a lot better. Good boy. Eventually you can take your whips away, and it's a nice thing to do to check in to see where you're at, but it's not something I would recommend doing in the beginning before you're practiced and dialed in with your horse, because you're taking away a tool, so things may get a little less precise. You may have to emphasize your body language more because you're taking away that extension of your arm. You may have to use your voice more. It just depends, but it's a great thing to try and to work towards if that's what you want to do. You can always use whips, or you can work towards not using whips. That's completely your decision. So another way that having 2 whips is really useful for me in thinking of liberty from more of a dressage perspective is it allows me to do a half halt at liberty, which is something that I recorded a whole video on a while back. You can find it under the liberty section on my channel. So I'm going to ask him to walk on a little bit, and then if I want him to collect the walk, I can use a little too much. I can use my front whip, kind of like I would use my rein if I was riding, but I still have my back whip for the energy. Because if you're familiar with half halts, as in dressage, you're active not just with your rein to collect, but also with your seat and your leg to keep the energy moving forward so you don't get a full halt, if that makes sense. Again, there's a whole video on that. I'm not going to go too deep on that today. So if he's trotting pretty energetically like he is right now, and I want to collect that before I either go to walk or to canter, I'm going to half halt. Good boy. We are distracted today. So there's a little bit more of using your front whip to help you with the half halt. Good boy. So, Marengo, I have to apologize because there's a lot of distractions going on, and he's a very sensitive horse, so I didn't pick the best day to record such a long video for you guys. So there's some cuts, and also that's just me trying to find where I'm in frame because I am videoing alone, and we'll get better at that stuff as we go along. So just remember, practice with your whips, get really comfortable with your tools, and always use your whips as kindly as possible. The less pressure you can use, the better, the more sensitive and responsive your horse will be in the long term. And let your horse tell you what's enough and what's too much. Just try to be really aware of your horse's reactions, because they're going to tell you if it's too much pressure, and that's just going to encourage a Liberty horse to leave. You know, people say, you know, what are your whips for? I bet you beat your horse. And you think that my horse would stay with me if I did? They won't. It's okay. It's okay. I know. Yeah, they're cleaning out the barn. There's tractors going up and down the driveway. There's been airplanes overhead, which we're kind of out here, so that's not really a regular thing. And they just moved the gelding herd right over there, so that's a big rocking of your world, and he kind of wants to go talk to them. So he has some tension today, and he's very distracted, so it was actually, we had to take some pauses just to get him to participate, even though we're demonstrating some relatively simple stuff for him. So everybody say thank you to Marengo for participating on a difficult day. And please let me know in the comments what questions you have, because we're still a really new channel and we do have like a little subscriber base growing, but this is going to be all about you guys at this point in time. So I'll let you guys keep guiding me on what you want to hear more about, and we'll just go from there. And again, it can be directly related to Liberty, or it can be something else. It's fine. I did a lot of different disciplines before I started training Liberty, so just comment down below what you want to see next. And if you're new, don't forget to like and subscribe, because it really helps us out. And we'll see you in the next one. Guys, I did want to add that even though I don't recommend using your whips as punishment, there are a few times when I would hit a horse with the whip, and that's when a horse is being dangerous, and they're being dangerous in your space. So in that case, I'm talking about coming towards you, kicking, shoving with their shoulders, aggressively biting. Then I'm going to use my whip, and I'm going to bring it down hard and fast to establish my space bubble. And what I'm saying there is get out of my space bubble, or my horse's space bubble, whether I'm riding the horse or if he's at liberty. If there was, say, another horse that came dangerously or is about to come dangerously into our space, I would bring that whip down very hard and very energetically. And even in that case, you don't necessarily have to hit the horse. You're going to hit the horse if you need to hit the horse. If you need to, for your personal safety or for your horse's safety, then you're going to hit the horse. But you just need to bring this in your space bubble. And if that horse moves out of the way, they don't get hit. But if they don't, then they do get hit. And that's not mean, that's just safety. That's the same way a horse would defend themselves in the pasture. They would turn and kick at that horse. And if that horse moves, then it doesn't get kicked. If it doesn't move, then it gets kicked. So that's just kind of the one exception to not hitting your horse with a whip. And just wanted to clear that up.